All right, class, this is the section that I will be sharing about the mesh to 3D print as well. But this has slightly more components, which is involving the model checklist. Let me go straight to the top view. Okay, this shampoo bottle will be shared on the link, and you are free to download and use it. So a couple of things that we will have to do just before you prepare the model in this checklist would be the units, and then we will do the bounding box to understand the scale in perspective, and of course using the distance to measure. And on the fourth note would be doing the scale in terms of 3D scale, 2D or 1D. Okay, and for the mesh checklist, we will come back to these components later on. All right, let's get started. Let's go to perspective view. And I'm changing this to shaded mode. All right, so many a times when you download certain things like a mesh, take for example, this mesh that we have on the screen. One of the important factor will be checking the units. I will probably sketch this and let's see if we can capture this. It's right here. Okay, and it says inches for now. Let's clear the annotation. Okay, so we will put the mouse over the word inches and right mouse click on it and click on unit setting. So this will bring up the Rhino documents properties. So right here you see model units in inches, and we will change it to millimeters. Okay, and if you see this pop-up screen, it says model will be scale 24.5. Yes, let's do that. So use the extend tool to help you to enlarge, to zoom extend to see the whole entire components. So we're done with units. We are happy with millimeters. Okay, so the second thing that I will bring to your attention would be using the analyze tools with the bounding box. This components is this command. It's very useful. Many times it will help you to determine sizes because you probably would find it difficult to measure in terms of scale. So bounding box, you can select everything, enter. So looking at this option here at the bounding box, it has a option known as accumulative. So if you say no, then what it does is it will put a bounding box in the individual items. So I'll leave it as no. Okay, if you see a yes, what you can do is you can click on this. You can change it to no, and let's give it a try. So on my screen, I'm just going to pan right here. On my screen, I can see that the item in two curve box. Many times I use the curve box. Okay, and I will repeat this command again. I will delete this. Analyze bounding box. Select item. Enter. It is at the output. Probably if you have missed it, I think the default that you got is solid. Okay, I change it to curves, so it helps. And accumulative, no. So now we're good. Because with the bounding box, I will need to know, I can find out where the extreme both area is. Take for example, from here to all the way here, I can know in terms of exact scale size, including this area. Okay, so bounding box helps a lot. I would encourage you to use bounding box. The other advantage is what you can do is you can also pick on this, and let's say I want to move to somewhere, I can just use endpoint to snap on it accurately. Okay, so many advantages using bounding box. So now we're gonna do a quick measurement. It's found at tools, excuse me, analyze distance. So endpoint, yes, I turn on all snap to show you. I try not to flood too much all snap here. Endpoint to endpoint, and now the measurement takes in 227.642. But maybe we'll change this. Maybe the scale is 240, okay, and 240 would mean that we need to scale this slightly bigger or probably smaller. Okay, so let's go for 200. Okay, let's get this into a relatively round up size. So transform, scale 3D. 3D does X, Y, Z axis. So we're going to go 3-dimensional scale. Enter. And I'm picking on the base point, which is right here. This bottom end of the bottle, and then this. I didn't want to pick on the cap because the cap is a separate components, but however, during scaling, I need to pick on all the items. So I'll pick the top of the bottle, and then at this junction, I'll just type in 200, enter. So just to show you, analyze distance, this to this is 200. Okay, and if I press enter again, it repeats the last command, distance again, endpoint to endpoint. So the scale now is 74. It really depends on which factor is important to you. Since this is a 3D model, you can determine whether you want a 1-axis or not. You can either say that I want to scale this round up to 75 very accurately. So I'll use a 1D. Okay, in terms of length, this to this, stretch this. Okay, that's one directional, and I type in 75. Okay, my only concern would be the roundness here. Okay, but I just demonstrated the 1D direction for you. I will just undo this. Okay, I'll just keep it as the default one. Okay, so we're done with the distance. We finished the scale. So this model now is prepared for mesh checking on the next section now. Okay, so now we come to the mesh portion. The next thing I'll do is I'll run through the mesh checklist right here on the left. Says mesh repair status. Okay, so for this, I will hide the gap. So that probably allow us to facilitate a lot easier. So mesh repair status, I'll just type mesh repair. Okay, mesh repair, and it pops up this dialog box. So what I need to do is I want to be sure that this mesh is good mesh. You know, I think that's probably the current thing we want to know. Check mesh. So select the mesh, enter. Okay, so Rhino give a lot of information here. So a couple of things I'll check is this. This is a good mesh. All right, just that is assuring that it's good to go. Whether the rest of things you can also browse through. This is a valid mesh. It's okay to work on if there's any intersection. So these are all the general information that the mesh has been put in. There's no need for repair mesh here. Okay, I'll just close this. So next item that I will do, just change this to perspective view. The next item I'll do is I'll mesh repair. Okay, sometimes I will rebuild mesh normal. Okay, I'll rebuild mesh normal. Yeah, probably you won't see much. So the next thing sometimes I will also pick on would be direction. I just want to make sure that the face of the surface is pointing in the right direction. Okay, so it's facing outward, which is correct. If you get to see inward, like this way, it's kind of tell you that it's facing the opposite side. But of course, I can just flip it first and then just have it on the face normal part of it. Okay, and the next one that I will share with you will be Age Tools. Show ages. I select the mesh and I press enter. Right. So a couple of things very quickly. I mean, I will not try to make this look beautiful. I just need to get it done, print, and then finish. So all ages, Rhino is showing you that these are all the ages that the model is. But what is more concerned is the naked ages. So by looking at the naked ages, it tells me that these are empty, missing faces that I probably might need to look into. Okay, so with this in mind, I will repair with fill hole. So fill holes basically does individual. Fill all holes is everything else in one click. It's like a fix all, but for this, I do not want them to fix this hole, but I can probably use individual selection. So mesh a fill hole, we got this. All right, enter, space bar, repeat the last command. Space bar, repeat last command. Okay, I'll just technically go around it. Okay, it looks like we're all good. All right, so the fill hole is done. We'll leave this vacant for a while because we're going to offset the mesh, give some thickness. So currently what you're looking at, we'll close that command. Currently you're looking at a piece of very thin wall, paper thin wall. So it requires certain thickness. So we're going to offset mesh to make this a valid print. Okay, so I'm going to use mesh, offset mesh. I'm going to select the bottle. So currently it shows that the mesh is in an outward position. Okay, so I'm going to do a negative. I know there is a lot of option here. One of the concern would be for you to look into this. Solid yes. I want it to be solid yes. And then I'll do a negative. So the wall thickness is for the bottle is probably, let's say 1.5. Done. Okay, so let's look close up. Okay, let me undo this again if you want to see this. So mesh, offset mesh, select the mesh, enter. So I remind you to check this, solid yes, and I'll do a negative 1.5, yep, 1.5. Okay, this is done. Okay, so I have offset the mesh for this bottle. So we'll go up to fix the cap. Okay, so this section here will let us go through the making of the bottle cap. So I'll turn on the show objects command, right mouse. Okay, and this is fixed, and then this one is the cap that we'll be working on. So let's look at the front view. Let's see what the whole entire bottle looks like. So we can see that, let's go ghost. Maybe that's not a very good idea, but shaded X-ray. Maybe the shading doesn't show much. Okay, maybe this will help. Okay, so looking at this, we know that the cap sits right in here. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to create a shell, or maybe a subtraction, because the border is this way. It's a single mesh surface or single mesh layer, so it's very thin. So we're going to create that boolean difference. Okay, so I'm going to go top view again, turn on the bottle, and I want to finish a section of this diameter. So how do I achieve this in a easy manner would be picking a perspective, and I want to say curve from this object. I will duplicate the edges. I'll just pick here and then select the edges, enter. Just off everything. Okay, so probably I need to explode them. Oh, no, I don't need to. So I'm just deleting all this single additional edges that I were not required to. So I'm just doing a quick one. Right view. Okay. Rhino has a lasso command. Okay, let's also try that. Okay. Okay, and then almost there. All right, we have these. Okay, I'll select the components and then really up to you whether you want to join or you want to draw something new. I can draw a 2-point circle. I can determine with this, okay, as a reference, or I can just delete everything else that I do not need. Okay, perspective, turn on the items. Yeah, I need to hide these. Okay, this two I hide. So now I have where the cap is. Okay, and I will use Rhino to say surface, no, solid, extrude plano, and I'll just make a solid from the circle. So how do we close this? What we can do is mesh, and then we turn on the repair tools and fill hole. And we fill this hole. Okay. I just remember that this diameter is the same one as the bottle opening. We shouldn't be using the same because we need to give a certain tolerance for the print so that the fitting will be good. Okay, so at the same time, I will use the gumball scale. In that case, I'll click on Shift keyboard, and pick on the scale gumball components here. And I'll click on this and say maybe 1.1 slightly. Okay, so it looks good. Let's see how much difference does it make from the original cap. I think that's okay. All right, next thing we want to do is let me just undo. I think we scale too much. It becomes a 3D scale instead. Let me just delete this, and then I will scale from the 2D. I'll off this. Okay, and then I'll just say 1.1. Okay, so and then I will show select. I only need this to turn on shaded. Maybe I'll just go back to wireframe, solid, extrude, curve. Okay, shaded. All right, so we're kind of pretty much done. And let's do a mesh boolean. All right, we picked mesh boolean because this was the original mesh. So mesh boolean difference, and this is the difference that we want to make. All right, so that's technically the whole. I will undo again, but this time around I probably visually allow some tolerance, since one just doing some mockups. That would be fine. Mesh again, Boolean difference. Main item that I want to use to subtract the difference of it. All right, so that's done. Show all. Now we have the 3D item. Okay, so I will hide this. Maybe I will hide this too. I turn on the show select, which is this and this. There is you can see the thickness here. That's the model I want. And that's also the model that I want. Okay, so we finish the Boolean. So if you have to print this, one of the understood method would be rotating this. Okay, rotating this at, let me just use the front view. Okay, we're gonna use a bounding box again to do this. Transform bounding box, excuse me, analyze bounding box. We'll do that again, analyze bounding box. Okay, cumulative no. Okay, so I'm gonna select this and say that I want to rotate with this to here and here. However, this it's going to be slightly tricky because if I were to print this, I might visually print this way. The main thing is even though there is a overhanging cap, I will still put support in the 3D printer, and at the same time I'll just remove the support because I would need the external surface to be good when it comes to finishing. So I'll sacrifice the internal surface as the support surface. So I'm just going to select here. Let's go perspective. Let's move this away. Okay, so once this is all done, select the bottle and file export selected. Same, we're going to use STL. I'm just going to type main. Okay. We're supposed to select main, but STL, which is right here. Okay, so save. Yeah, okay, looks decent. Next, the bottle, select cap. If you want to look at the options, these are the options. Not done, nothing. So export, save, yes. Okay, there is no much option because these are already in mesh. So Rhino will not give you the option to say, I want a higher mesh or lower mesh. Okay, so these mesh is already done. Then they will just take it and export it for you. Done. Okay, so this part here, we end our learning about the mesh. I hope you have benefited from this. Thank you very much.